Greetings, my dear homogeneous intermediary species. Briefly, we have had a bubble called heaven, followed by a few unexplained magic spells to turn this bubble inside out and create the universe. Then God planted a garden before there was any sunlight to heat and photosynthesize the plants. Interesting, how do plants survive a day at absolute zero? And water doesn't really flow at absolute zero either. Maybe this heaven was caustic. Where are we? Day 5. The book of Genesis says, 20. And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. 21. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. 22. And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. 23. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. So, day 5 was all about fish and chicks. God's favourite takeaway from the diner at the start of time, October 27th, 4004. BC was a Thursday. I would normally have my takeaway a day later, on the Friday after the end of the working week. However, who am I to fault God? He said sarcastically. The term moving creatures carries an air of ambiguity, but let's stick with the words that are written. Let's say everything that is commonly found in the seas or anything with wings. Things of the sea should definitely come before plants, trees and grass. And the first birds were a direct descendant of the dinosaur. So there is a massive gap in biology inferred between these two groups. Plus, God throws in a random mammal for good ignorance. It is like the author took 3 darts and tossed them at a list of creatures. Life in the oceans started about 3.5 billion years ago. With very slow progression, life went from fatty acids with RNA to sponges, worms, and eventually fish. Life remained limited to the sea because the atmosphere above the waters was toxic to life. 635 million years ago, soft-bodied life forms thrived in the oceans unchallenged and unmolested. With the Cambrian explosion of life 542 million years ago, creatures evolved to hunt and be prey. And they also developed adaptations for protection. Predation drove rapid change in species for survival. One of the new species to evolve was cyanobacteria, photosynthetic organisms that produce oxygen as a byproduct. Once oxygen levels in the bubble, called heaven, increased, algae and microorganisms started moving from seas onto land at roughly 530 million years ago. No, plants do not come before the moving things of the sea. Again, we see a reference to the firmament, which is claimed to be God's heaven. In this use, it is clearly referring to the sky. So, this time, God lives in the literal sky. Right? I will briefly touch on the fact that fowl refers to specific types of birds, typically domesticated ones raised for meat or eggs, not the overall biological classification called aves. We see further reference to this as they multiply in the earth, much like a chicken's nest. If it was all birds, the verse should be more of a general statement, as any child would tell you that birds nest in the trees. Amen. The new book of Genesis says, 20. And lo, it came to pass after the forming of earth, 3,500 million years ago, the seas stirred with the spark of life. 21. And it came to pass in the dawning of time, 530 million years ago, that the green breath of life stirred upon the barren lands. 22. And lo, in the Jurassic period, roughly 150 million years ago, did feathers take to the skies for the first time. 23. And lo, in the epoch of the Eocene, some 40 million years after the reign of the dinosaurs, the first whale did breach the surface. Birthed from land-dwelling ancestors, it took to the vast oceans, its form changing, fins replacing limbs. Thus began the reign of Leviathan, the mighty whale. In the seas it shall dominate for ages to come, and definitely not a day in the making. Click like and subscribe to join me while I expose the claims of the Bible, and then together we can make it better.